Welcome to another weekly featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, James Moffat, where he will gracefully take our featured guest on a personal and business journey and stories that will inspire, educate, and engage you.
Hello and welcome to another featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, myself, James Moffat. Today we have our 114th guest all the way from Australia, down under, Nic Fren. So welcome, Nic, to the show.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a great pleasure. And you caught my eye. I normally find my guests through LinkedIn, which seems to be a great place because it's very international and there's 800 plus million people to choose from. So, but you obviously stood out. So, Nic, welcome. So we're going to take you on a journey from your childhood to where you are now, touching on any memorable experiences that you want to share with us. I've got some notes here that you shared with me, so I'm going to steer the conversation. And anybody that's watching the recording, then there'll be also the contact details and everything that they can reach out and connect with you afterwards. Typically, most people connect on LinkedIn, but also share their websites and other links that they feel appropriate. Right, so let's get going. So, a journey. But before we get going, let's find out, where are you in Australia? So where do you live, Nic?
So I live in Sydney's eastern suburbs.
Right, a beautiful city, which is on my to-do list of places to go to. My parents have been, and they keep telling me how beautiful it is. And I know you shared that with me already. And I have friends there, so I've got plenty of places to go and stay. So I look forward to one day going there. So, but Nic, you're not originally from there. So how long have you lived there, and where are you originally from?
I've been in Sydney now for about 15 years, but I originally am from Newcastle. So it's a city, a smaller city. It's probably about 3 hours north of Sydney. So I was born and grew up there.
Right.
Mum and dad are still there. Yeah. Which
is actually a connection, because I grew up in the UK and I lived in a place called Newcastle in the northeast of England, right? So my football team is Newcastle United Football Club, right?
Right. Yes, I do know them. Yep.
It was the days of like 𝗓𝗓𝗙𝗓 and people like that. Right? Yeah. So I grew up with them, but it was quite ironic because we at the time had contemplated on emigrating to Australia. And we thought, where could we go? And we thought, there's another place called Newcastle. And I thought, oh, is there? So we checked it on the map and thought, yeah, we should go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although we never did, obviously.
Yeah.
My parents split up and we moved south. But yeah, it was definitely a place that we had checked out. So we knew Newcastle better than Sydney, although never been to either. Although my mum eventually did go. So anyway, enough of that. So you grew up there. Did they have a football team as well, or
yeah, the Newcastle Knights, Knights football team.
They're not black and white as well, are they?
No, they are red, white, and blue.
All right, red, white, and blue. Okay.
Yeah, so like the old what would you call it? Back in, I suppose, medieval days, the knights on the horse.
Oh yeah.
That was the mascot. So it was the actual noble knight. So yeah, that's where it came from.
Did you follow them?
Still do. To this day. They're not doing as good as they used to. So I'm on the fence this season. It might be the Roosters, but still cheer for them when they're playing.
So when you say you support Newcastle, and I say I support Newcastle, then you've got to try and find out which one it is.
You do. You do.
All right. Actually, talking about that, I do have a signed football shirt, and like my kids now are into football. So I have 3 kids, but my 2 sons wanted it. So I have a signed football shirt with Alan Shearer on it, actually. And that's in one son's bedroom. And because I live in Switzerland now, and the local team here in Bern are called Young Boys, right?
Right.
And bit of a strange name, but that's a long story. But anyway, so I have another signed shirt from them, those players, on my other son's wall. So they're very happy with that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, no, I had all the jerseys signed and that growing up as well. It's a rite of passage.
Okay, so anyway, Nick, so growing up as a kid, what was it like? I mean, kind of hobbies, activities? I mean, were you adventurous? Did you like nature and stuff?
Yeah, we were pretty lucky where we live. So mum and dad built a house in a place called Dudley, and we're very fortunate. We had literally the beach at the front door and the bush at the back door. And in the estate where we lived, it's all the kids that went to our school lived in there. So it was a great little community. You know, there's a skate park, and it was, I know you hear it all the excuse me, all the time, but it was one of those things where, you know, we would go out to the skate park that was behind mum and dad's house, and everyone would be there. And it was just like, when the street lights come on, you had to come home. There was, you know, staying inside was not, you didn't stay inside unless you're in trouble. And it was, you were either at the beach or in the bush or at the skate park.
Right.
So that was Newcastle.
So in the summer, I guess the streetlights came on very late.
Yes.
So you could be out longer.
Yeah.
So that was like it reminds me of like the school bell. When the teacher rings the bell, it's time to come in, right?
Yeah.
So when the lights came on, it's time to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. Or mum, she could whistle. So when you heard that whistle, that was the key. That was, you had to go home.
Yeah. That just got me thinking about Skippy.
Yep.
Do you remember the kangaroo?
Kangaroo, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, when I grew up as a kid, we used to watch Skippy on TV.
Yeah. I used to watch him as well.
Did they still have that? Or was that kind of
No, that came off the air. Oh God. Good 20, 25 years ago.
Oh yeah, it shows my age now. Right. But yeah, but we kind of grew up with Neighbours and Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan.
I'm a big Neighbours fan, very big Neighbours fan, and so excited to see it coming back in July this year.
I used to like Kylie Minogue, but I saw Jason Donovan when I lived in London. He was in a musical called Joseph.
Okay. Yeah.
And with a multicolored dream coat, and like he sang there. So I did get to see him actually.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, but these are other stories about musicals in London. So yeah. Now there's learn a bit more. You've got siblings as well.
Yep, I've got two brothers.
Right. Older or younger?
Yep. One of each, one older, one younger.
Oh, so you're the middle one.
I'm the middle.
Right. Yeah. So just out of curiosity, because I mean, a lot of people hear about Australia as like you got to be careful, particularly in the bush, for snakes and other things. I mean, is it pretty dangerous, or you have to know what you're looking for?
Rabbits are dangerous, maybe.
Sorry?
Rabbits are dangerous there.
Rabbits?
Yes.
Are they? Oh, look, I think the misconception about Australia is, and I get it from clients that I've got overseas, it's not dangerous. There are things that you don't do. If you go to the bush, you expect to see a snake. If you go to the bush in summer, you expect to see a snake. If you see a snake, you don't run and create a fuss. You just stand still. The snake is scared of us. They move on vibration and heat. If it's a brown snake or a red belly, don't touch it, obviously. Koalas can claw your eyes out. They are not as cute and cuddly as you think. Kangaroos hop around everywhere. I know people say, do they hop across the Sydney Harbour Bridge? No, they don't. They are in the bush and they are in the zoo. We do not have kangaroos hopping down the main street of Sydney. And it's just, look, there are probably a lot of things that can kill you, but, it's like every country, we've got sharks. Western Australia, there's particular areas where the water's a bit water, where, that happens, but, more people die on the road every single day than are killed by a snake or eaten by a shark or ripped apart by a crocodile. So, there are obvious signs. Yeah, if you go to Darwin or the Northern Territory, don't go swimming in the lakes. But to go down here to Bondi Beach, down the road from me, you don't have to worry about 9 times out of 10, you don't have to worry about sharks and things like that. With all the stuff that they got these days with technology and apps and all that kind of thing, you generally know about there's a shark in the area a day before it hits.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to to paint the wrong picture of places. You could always look at the negative things, and you could say that, oh yeah, the sharks, you're going to get the jellyfish. You go into the bush and you're going to get bitten by a snake. You go and swim in a lake, you'll get eaten by a crocodile or something. But I mean, you could say that about the Everglades. You could say that about any country. I mean, but you're right. There's more deaths with people crossing the road.
100%. 100%.
Right? So, yeah, we deal with that every day. But anyway, on a positive note, Sydney is a beautiful place, and it's summertime there now.
It is, yes. It is.
So where is your evening now? It's early morning here, and our winter.
Yeah, so it's about, what is it? It's 8:30 at night here. Not the best summer's day. It's been raining all day. So it's not the summer lifestyle that people like to think, Sydney is. But the last couple of days that we've had have been magic. Blue skies, 30 odd degrees Celsius. I'm on the water, so it's beautiful.
So you can get your Speedos on and go on the beach.
Certainly do. Certainly do.
Right. Okay. So let's kind of move forward a little bit. So are you a sporty person? I mean, activities and stuff as well?
Not really. Look, I don't mind getting into sports, but probably not as much as I used to be. I used to race motorbikes and all that kind of stuff as a kid growing up, and surfed and all that kind of thing. But I think as I got a bit older, not as much as I probably should. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's still sporty. I mean, in my book. Right. You mentioned, I don't know if it was a joke, but you mentioned kind of on the chat that we had that you're a singer.
Yeah.
So when did that all start?
Oh God, how did that start? I think I got a little keyboard from my nan when I was in like year 7 or something, and I just started playing with it, and I didn't know how to play anything. Just started writing my own stuff, and I wanted to be an audio engineer, a recording engineer. So I started, went and did a recording engineer course, got a couple of mates. We had a little garage band, got in the studio, and we just mixed some songs, did some covers of some songs. I did the mixing, and someone had to sing it because I needed to practice. And then I just got in front of the microphone, started singing. It was terrible. I thought it was great. And then a couple of years, really kind of got the bug for singing, songwriting, went in, did a single, a little 3-song album, covered Crowded House. I don't know if they're big or were big over your way. Did Distant Sun and an original, and it got top 3 in a particular area in the charts in the Upper Hunter in Newcastle. And yeah, so that was fun. And then went and did some like shows and all that kind of stuff. And it was good for me. I was a bit of a shy kid in some ways, and that was kind of good for me to, I suppose,
But you never had any singing lessons?
I had some. I don't think they did very much though. I had some, but yeah.
But this started off as a bit of fun and then became something.
For me, it was I struggled at school. I hated school. The teachers hated me. And it was just for the fact that I just couldn't concentrate at school. I was not an academic student at all. And I just found, for me, music was such a creative outlet. And it was just a place where I could go and put the headphones in and just, that's where I felt most comfortable, create that whole creative process. And for me, it was just a way to get stuff out. Yeah.
So you learnt the keyboards at school or in music lessons or something?
Yeah. I had piano lessons. Did music at school, then I had piano lessons outside of school as well.
Yeah.
And I was classically trained.
Actually, what you're saying, right, is, it just makes me think about my eldest son. He's 10 now, right? Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I mean, at school, he is academically gifted, but he's bored. He's bored at school. He challenges all the time and asks questions that the teachers can't answer. And then because of that, he gets disruptive, and then he gets put out the class. So we tried to find him an activity. So besides playing football, right? Yeah. we also got him interested in musical instruments, and he also plays the piano. He found that, I mean, we tried different things, and the piano was kind of, he was gifted at, right? And now, like a year later, he's playing with two hands. He doesn't look at he reads music. He doesn't have to look at the keys or the music. He memorizes it, right? Because mathematically, he's a genius as well. So he's found kind of his gifts, and that's his outlet.
Yeah,
right?
and it's such a good outlet to have. I mean, and I found I did have a classical piano teacher that taught me I wanted to, play what I wanted to play, and she's like, no, you got to learn classical, and you can play anything. And I was like, yep, righto. And then it just kind of, I got to the point where I can literally, even to this day, I can sit down, listen to a song, and go and play it, just without the sheet music or anything like that. And it's
I had the same experience. I used to play guitar, and they were, you go on the classic now. And now my daughter, I also have 3 kids. She's playing guitar, but she's playing what she likes. So it's totally different way of teaching.
And it's really funny. I remember my dad saying, because I got the 2 brothers when we're all living at home. We had a 2-story house, and he said that one day he's come out of his bedroom, he's walking downstairs, and he had to have a laugh because both my brothers are musicians as well. You have my little brother, who's 2 years younger than me, in front of his mirror, no shirt on, electric guitar, rocking out or playing AC/DC. Then you have me on the piano. At that time, I was in the Celine Dion phase, and I was playing whatever I was playing on the piano. And then you have my older brother, who's 4 years older than me, who is a big Eagles and Beach Boys fan, and he's there strumming away. And Dad just said, I've got 3 boys, and the music genres were so different. But it was good because I think for each of us, we've all done a bit of dabbling in songwriting and stuff like that, and sort of taken that little bit of energy. Like, I like what you're doing, Toby, with the electric guitar. Why don't you bring that in, to what I'm doing? And it was, that it did start to collaborate and all that kind of thing. But I mean, what I liked about it back then, which is such a shame that, I love that we've got all these streaming services and things, but I used to remember when we had CDs, I used to buy the CD, and in the inlet, underneath every song, it would have what instrument was actually played in that song. And I used to go to the songs that I loved. It's like, okay, and this is when I was writing and engineering, what instrument's in that song? I like that sound. What is it? And then, okay, because I want that for my song. And it was really fun. Creative outlet.
So did your father put you together as a band?
No, God, no.
But was it music in the family? I mean, did your parents play?
They didn't play, but it was music was always. I know everyone says music was always around, but music was always around. And we had a very, I don't know. It was, music was always played. We used to go on a lot of holidays, trips away, like long 5-6 hour drives, and there was always music. And I still joke when I go back to visit Mum and Dad, they still listen to the songs from the 70s and the 80s on the radio stations they listen to. Songs now that are 50 years old, they still listen to. But I think, growing up as kids, you listen to what your parents listen to, and then you kind of start to come into your own and find what makes it work for you.
I know what you mean, because I love the lyrics to the Beatles songs, because they're easy to remember songs, and they're fun to sing, and you remember them. They're very memorable. So I'm busy singing Beatles songs, and my kids are doing the same. So if I say a word, I'll say like close, and they'll say, close your eyes and I'll kiss you. And then if I say yesterday, and then they'll say all my dreams, and they know the words, right? So we kind of play this game that you just say the first word, and then they have to say the song.
And it's interesting though, like you look at those songs that were recorded 50 years ago, and they're still relevant today. They're still popular today, whereas you look at some of these other art, and I think that's the thing too, that I mean, like I said, I used to play in pubs and clubs and things like that. Nowadays, you put a song on TikTok, you're famous. And, it was kind of that longevity, I don't think, or the songs, the meaning and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I shouldn't say it's not there, but some of those songs from the 70s and that, they're just timeless.
Yeah, this is great because also when I was playing guitar, I was studying Beatles songs and how to play them, etc. Then in university, I switched to heavy metal.
Yep, okay. little harder, harder.
A little harder, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, we can talk about music all day, and music. I find, yeah, you can relieve a lot of stress and everything by music, and sometimes, I mean, music can motivate you. It can make you feel good. It can also make you feel depressed. But I mean, typically we listen to music for the different moods that we're in. And it's great. I mean, quite ironically, I was singing 2 songs to my kids all day long. I was singing, "Don't Worry About a Thing, because every little thing's going to be all right," Bob Marley, right? And then I was singing Lenny Kravitz, "I want to get away, I want to fly," right? All day long, right? And then I never, ever listen to the radio in the car because it distracts me. And it's always normally crap, right? Excuse my French, right?
So, no, well, you're right. Yeah.
So anyway, I just felt impulse to turn the radio on. So I turned the radio on, and can you believe it? My son said to me, "Daddy, they're playing your song." It was, I was Bob Marley. "Don't Worry About a Thing." And then I thought, so we listened to that, and we were quite happy that we were playing my song. And then the very next song that came on was Lenny Kravitz. And I thought, what's the chances of that happening? Right. So I believe in serendipity. Things happen for the reason. And we're given all the signs all throughout our life. And sometimes we just don't read them because we don't know what we're looking for.
Yeah.
But anyway, Nic, back to you. Yeah. So you mentioned about school. So why was it that you kind of didn't get on at school? You didn't like the subject? You didn't like the teachers? You didn't like the way it was taught, or combination?
I've got ADD, so I'm hyperactive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in a time when that was not well known, well addressed. This was back when it was first sort of coming in. They were diagnosing people with it. They pumped you full of the pills. I was on the Ritalin for about 2 weeks or so, and Mum took us off it. And I just didn't find school stimulating. Even now, to sit down to something for half an hour that I'm not interested in, I can't do it. I will sit here and you'll see I've got to play with my pen. I've always got to be doing something. And to sit there and listen to stuff like Pythagoras' theorem and algebra and all that kind of stuff, it's like I knew in my head that I was never going to be an academic. I knew I was never going to be a scientist. I knew I was never going to be a doctor. I knew that I was going to be a tradesman of some sort. So why am I sitting here having to listen to all this shit? But I excelled at stuff like music and art and woodwork and all that kind of stuff. I went good in those areas. But the frustration in the other ones with, English, even to this day, I struggle. I've got no idea with the word two, where it's 1 0 or 1 0 or naught, whatever, or two. And I'm kind of at that point where I don't care anymore. But that was frustrating to me, that you're sitting there and it's kind of like, I'm not interested. I don't want to be here. I'm not rebelling. I can't do it. And then teachers back then, if you were struggling, you were in trouble. There was no, how can we help you, or anything like that. I mean, we're talking back in, pre-2000, back when all this stuff was around. So it wasn't the fact that I was naughty or anything like that. It's just I was frustrated. Teachers weren't equipped or cared enough back then to deal with it. And you were just kind of, written off as the class clown or the one who distracts everyone and all that kind of stuff. And I think every report I had, very disruptive in class. And it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I mean, last week's guest was actually an emotional trauma teacher from the UK. And she said it's also about the ambience of the classroom. Yeah. And basically, nothing has changed in kind of Victorian times. I mean, I remember when I was sitting at school, so academically, I was okay. I was kind of middle grade. I was not terrible, but I was not so good either. And exactly like you, but put me in a woodwork class or a metalwork class, or I mean, we had a class called roadwork in the way that we had donated cars to school, old bangers basically, and then we learned how to drive. So at 15, I'm driving the car around the school playing field, trying not to run over other kids, and then we wanted to learn the mechanics of the car. How does a car work? So in the subject, we took the engine out, we took it apart, we put it back together, and we had to make it drive again. And I would be kind of top of the class because that was my thing. Yeah. But put me in a maths class or a history class or something more academical, and I just didn't enjoy it. And I was like you. I was a daydreamer. On my school reports, James would do so much better if he wasn't such a daydreamer. But I was daydreaming about the things I did like to do. And exactly what you're saying. School is a place for education, and it's not all about the set criteria of the curriculum that the government are forcing upon you. It's about doing things that are natural, gifted things that we have. Like you are gifted at so many things that you've told me already, right? But these aren't taught at school.
No.
And so I've had lots of teachers that have been on the show and they've said exactly the same. So we're kind of planning to get a panel together and have a whole discussion about this because it needs to be fixed. It's just not right. And now I see it with my kids, exactly the same. My elder son has got exactly the same. They've deemed him now, he has Asperger's, which I'd never heard of before, right? And because he has this retention difficulty, but he's a genius, but he doesn't fit in at the school because the school don't know how to deal with it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I suppose that's the hard part when you've got, and I suppose the teacher's got 30 or 40 kids in a class. So I don't know. Look, I've got no idea how many people are in classrooms these days, but I do feel for the teachers at some point too, where they've got a class of 30 people and someone like me, mucking up in class and this, that, and the other doesn't want to be there and you're disrupting. I can imagine. I've only got to babysit my nieces and nephews for half an hour or an hour when one of them plays up and I lose it. So I don't know. I have to admit, I don't know how teachers can do classrooms day in, day out. That is certainly not a job. Yeah. Respect to all the teachers. It's not a job that I'd like, though.
No. Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, I have respect for the teachers because when you go to learn to be a teacher, you don't learn psychology and behavioral problems and emotional traumas and stuff like that. You learn your given subject. And when you've got a class now, because there's always a budget thing. So, I mean, in my son's class, it's anything from 24 to 30 kids with one teacher looking after them. And you just want one that misbehaves. And I honestly couldn't do it. So great respect to teachers, but also a failure to the educational system and the educational ministers and the government, because this problem has been going on for decades and they're not addressing it. They're claiming there's no budget for that. So what do they want? Do you want people to grow up not having their full potential and having problems? Or do they want to help? But they'd rather spend their money on some utter rubbish. But anyway, that's another story. So anyway, Nic, so what did you want to be then when you left school?
Employed. That was it. I had no idea. I hated school. I said to mum and dad at the end of year 10, I don't know what form that is over your way, but I was 15. I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to year 11 and 12. I'm not going to university. Don't waste your money. The deal was with mum and dad. They said, you can leave school at the end of year 10 if you have an apprenticeship. You're not going on government benefits. You're not doing anything like that. 3 o'clock, last day of school, year 10, bell rang. Next morning, I was a pastry chef, and I had to do my apprenticeship with that. Bought a house at 21, and that was had no dream. I don't know. I was 15. I had no, and I think the problem with kids these days, I had no idea what I want to do with the rest of my life at 15. I just knew that I wanted to make money. I wanted to buy a house. Wanted to move out of home, and just So at the time, I got a job at local cake shop and it paid me, so I was happy.
And you became a pastry chef?
Did that for 5 years.
All right. And then after that, I mean, at what point did you get into the kind of the business that you then went on to do?
Well, I bought a house, and the agent I bought the house from had a advertisement in the paper looking for a real estate agent with no experience. And I thought, okay, perfect. I'm 21, and I thought all real estate agents did was drive nice cars, drink coffee all day, and wear nice clothes. And I said to my partner at the time, I could do that. That doesn't sound too hard. So I rang up the agent. I said, yep, I'm keen. So I started with him in real estate, and that was 18 years ago, this past January. So I've been an agent for 18 years. And I started that in Newcastle and moved down and started selling property here in Sydney's eastern suburbs, and never looked back. It's been a fantastic career.
So congratulations on that, 18 years, right? But you did something completely different, right? And you kind of changed the game in real estate. So tell us about, so you got into real estate, so something you never knew anything about.
Yep.
So did you drive around in the nice car and the fancy suit and everything and drink the coffee?
Yeah, but it didn't happen as quick as I would have thought. So to anyone watching this who's of the same mind that you want to get into real estate because it's luxury and it's all this, it is after 5 or 6 years of hustle. It takes you a while.
In Bulgaria, we switched from communism to capitalism. So we have this shift.
Yeah.
Then people were thinking it's the easiest job you can do to become real estate agent. You just need to have a home phone, no mobiles at the time.
Yeah.
You just find people and you connect them. That's it. Too. But apparently it's not really maybe that easy.
It's really not that easy. I mean, it's interesting even now. I've kind of taken a bit of a step away from being a sales agent, but I still get people calling me up wanting me to sell their house and that's great. I don't have to prospect, but they sell you the lifestyle, but they don't let you know that you've got to be out letterbox shopping in the rain. You've got to be making 100 phone calls a day. You've got to be building relationships with people. You're looking after someone's biggest asset. There's a lot on your shoulders, and that's before you get paid. See, real estate, you don't get paid unless you perform. So you learn very quickly how to make sales in real estate and how to build relationships very quickly.
So when you worked, I mean, initially you went to work in a company then, and you had to learn the ropes basically.
Yes.
And so they're teaching you also how to be a salesperson and how to haggle and how to kind of manage that. So how was that?
It kind of, my dad owns a used car yard. So I'd grown up on the car yard and I'd grown up watching my dad sell. So the salesman side of things I didn't really have to learn that. I kind of had grown that. And I think being in music and all that kind of stuff, I'd come out of my shell by this stage. I was very passionate about what I did. Even to these days, if we're at a family dinner, mum will be like, stop talking about work because I love it. And I think having that passion for something, really wanting to help someone with their dreams and their goals and their situation, and being okay at it, I suppose, it was the rest is just structure. And it was, okay, for me, it was like the end goal, I want to do this to get there. Okay, Nick, you've got to make 100 calls a day. You've got to 30 market appraisals a week, whatever it is. So it wasn't necessarily about the outcome because I knew the outcome would happen. It was the structure as far as you're running a business within yourself. And, it's all in the numbers, the numbers you do the numbers will look after themselves. Make enough phone calls, you make 100 calls a day, 99 people are going to say no, but you're trying to find that one person that's going to say yes.
Absolutely.
And they will.
Yeah. So how long did you work in that company? I mean, how big was the company before you decided that I want to venture out and do my own thing?
I work in I've worked in a couple, so I won't go through them all because I'll be here all night. But that particular company, I was there for a year. I was 21. I asked for a pay rise because I was doing some deals. The owner at the time said he was not prepared to pay a 21-year-old what I wanted. So I said, okay, that's fine. I went and worked for his competitor and really shone through. They were very supportive and allowed me to be me. And then after a while, Oops, sorry, my Mac is about to die. After a while, I ended up moving to Sydney and to Sydney's eastern suburbs. And that was probably, I was in Newcastle for probably about 3 or 4 years in real estate. And then, came to Sydney and spent about 10 years selling property down here.
So was there any turning point that you decided that I'm going to go alone and do my own thing?
In real estate or business?
Yeah, real estate.
Look, there was a point where I thought I'll start my own real estate agency, and I looked at it, but then when I looked at what was involved in running an office, I was like, nah, I'm happy just listing and selling property and having someone else do the paperwork and having someone else do I'm a salesperson. I'm not admin. I don't want to touch paperwork. When it comes to compliance and checklists and all that, I don't want to know about it. I'd pay someone else to do it. And it was just, I say that because I asked a question in the questionnaire that I sent out, and you mentioned here the real estate gave you a filthy look and you threw the keys across the table. And what was that one? I'd left the company, and it was I won't say because in case they see it, it wasn't a great experience. I went and worked for this particular company, and the principals, that's what we call out the owners, they were probably not getting along. I'd been through 3 years, and real estate is a really tough gig. You've got to be mentally fit to work in real estate because it is that the highs are so high, but the lows are so low. Anyway, there'd been drama going on for a while. And my principal that I worked directly with, I was the only salesperson by this time. They'd lost everybody else. It was all down on me. There was no support. There was no positiveness. There was just, the market here in Australia had turned in 2018. I was rolling up doing absolutely all the work, and we had a meeting with the coach, and I was 1 foot out the door. I just was like, no, I'm not doing this. And I basically said, I'm not happy. I want to leave. I want to do something else. I said, look, out of respect, I had 2 properties on the market. I said, I just want to sell them and do the right thing by my owner, and then we'll call it quits. And then the principal just rolled her eyes at me. And I said, righto, boom, here you go. I was through with the keys. I'd actually already packed my desk because I thought it was going to go down like that. And I just thought, I'm not copping this. And the job's not worth it. The money's not worth it. The disrespect that was being shown. So I just walked out and I've never looked back.
Yeah. I mean, your story up to that point is still amazing. When you told us about kind of your childhood and kind of not really fitting in at school, the teachers didn't really enjoy you being in the class, being maybe disruptive and whatever, to going on to what you're doing and the self-confidence and the belief in yourself, and now being in a position that, I mean, you mentioned earlier, you're just grateful for any job. And now you're in a position that you can give the keys back and walk away.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a plan. And that was the thing. And that's where the business that I've got now, I drove home that night. I had no idea. Drank way too much that night, woke up the next morning with a hangover, went to the gym, driving home. I was like, what am I going to do? And I'd started a little Instagram page, Bespoke Media. I don't even know if it was called that back then. And then I thought, you know what? I've got money in the bank. I'm not going through another 2 years of toxicity. I'm going to try and do my own thing and just see what happens. And that's what I did.
Right. Excellent. So now you do your own thing. So let's kind of move into that and tell us, now that you started it, what's the name of the business? What do you do? And where are you? At what stage at the moment?
So the business is Bespoke Media Group. So we specialize in social media, digital marketing, PR for real estate agents and business owners in general. But I fell into this. So I'm the first agent in Australia who listed and sold a property on Facebook back in 2015. I'm probably the longest serving agent in the country to use social media. I've been using social media to sell property for 11 years now. And it worked well for me. And then around that time when I threw the keys across the desk to the owner, social media wasn't used to sell real estate back then. And I was laughed at, and I had people taking the mickey out of me all the time and saying that I was crazy. Facebook doesn't sell properties. And so then I started selling property through Facebook. And then I had people contacting me, asking me to help them with their stuff. And then, it was in the January 2018, someone messaged me on LinkedIn and said, how much would I charge to help her? And then I thought, look, you buy me a cup of coffee, I'm happy to have a chat. I didn't think anyone would pay to hear me talk about selling property on real estate. So then after I left that particular real estate office, I thought I could be onto something here. No one is doing this. No one is helping real estate agents. And let's be honest, and to any real estate agent that does see this, I am one of you. I am still a licensed agent, so I say this with respect. We don't look good online. We are very flashy. We sell our results, but not what we do very well. And that was something that I wanted to change. I wanted to help agents move into the digital era and the social media era to list and sell properties and brand themselves. So it just it started as nothing. It started a conversation in the back of the car one day. It was just a hobby. It was only supposed to be for a little bit extra pocket money and help. I thought, if I help a dozen agents, that's fine. Whereas now, as of today, we're in 6 countries and I've got over 850 members who use our services. So, we've been going 5 years.
Wow, congratulations. I mean, that's excellent. But I think, you saw the niche and you had the experience. You had asked the questions, you had dabbled around, and you saw kind of an opening there that sometimes, this is an old expression. If everyone's going left, go right.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of, made your own path and journey that you wanted to go on, and it proved successful. So congratulations on that. So now, I want to also, we will come back to this in a minute. I just want to kind of park that up. That the reason why I reached out to you on LinkedIn, being another social media, which is predominantly the one that I use every day, and because there's some great people out there, and I love to hear people's stories. Now, Nic, I knew absolutely nothing about you a week ago, right? Yeah. I'm still learning now, but from what I've learned so far, and I think what the audience are learning as well, you're a fantastic guy and you've got so much to share, but also by sharing, you're influencing people as well. Anyone that feels kind of lost and maybe was a dropout at school, that there is hope for everybody. So that's why we do these shows as well, to inspire, to educate, and fundamentally to bring hope. And this is definitely what you're doing. I see so much of myself and actually my kids in you. And I think many other people will as well. So it's going to help them feeling that there is hope. But what caught my eye on LinkedIn, which is a massive thing that's happening at the moment, is mental health problems, but particularly in this case with men. And there's so many suicides that are happening on a daily basis. It's just become kind of a taboo subject that nobody wants to talk about. But when they do, everybody seems to resonate with it because they know somebody, either a relative, a friend, or an acquaintance that they know that this has happened. So this is what I want to kind of touch on now. So this is what caught my attention. So maybe tell us a bit more about that. Why did you post this, and why did you feel that you needed to post it? And what was your connection with Simon Dunn?
Well, in Australia at the moment, the suicide rate of men is about 7 or 8 a day. Now, we've got ministers for everything. We've got ministers for roads and traffic and health and all that kind of stuff. We've got ministers for women and all that kind of thing, but we don't have a minister for men. And the problem, I've gone through my own struggles. About a year or two ago, I had a lot of online bullying. And the thing that I learned very quickly was when my business really started to take off, the trolls came out. And I really was not equipped to handle the level of hatred. And just the disrespect that people can hide behind a fake profile and how they can impact. I mean, I was having people show up to my house in the middle of the night. I was having people would put in inquiries for a painter to come to their house. I was getting phone calls. Like, it wasn't just the social media stuff. They were going after my clients. They were going after my family. And it was like, if you've got a problem with me, deal with me. But it kind of put me in a situation where I was in such a dark space. So personally, I knew what it was like to go through a tough time. But I was lucky that I had, and still do have, a good circle that I can, go and talk. But a lot of men don't, and there's still a lot of stigma around a male reaching out and asking for help. And I think the fact is, not a lot of guys do it. There still is that stigma that it's you're a wuss. What that means here in Australia is like you're weak. You're not a real man if you ask for help. And I personally think it's the strongest thing a guy can do to put his hand up and say, I'm not dealing with this. I see a lot of young fathers as out there working, and I've had really good mates of mine who, are going through some tough times, and it's like, mate, I can see it. You've got to look after your family. The strongest thing, the best thing you can do for your family is to reach out and ask for help. With Simon, for instance, now I've probably been to more funerals than I've been to marriages, and I'm only 38. I probably lost about 5 mates last year to suicide. With Simon, he was an Olympian. He was a bobsled guy, and he also was like in the footy and in the LGBT community. He was massive, and he was a really nice guy. And that just came as such a shock to everybody. No one, it was just a shock. And I think the thing was, with that particular post, it was just I suppose an opportunity to bring it up because of the work that he was doing. We were supposed to have a podcast, would have been about now actually, about this very thing, about mental health and all that kind of thing. And it was just, it's bringing awareness, and I suppose it's using people who've got that platform in a particular area to bring awareness to it. And that's what I'm quite happy to put my hand up and say, I know this sounds obnoxious, but as a successful young guy, I've struggled. And I don't care if people look at me weak. I don't care, because if that's how they view me, that says more about them. And I'm not going to waste my time trying to hide myself or my pain for how someone else is feeling. And I've probably kind of gone a 180 or 360 of where I was 2 years ago. Whereas I still get it. I still get bullied to this day, but it doesn't affect me at all. And I suppose in an arrogant way, and I'm just going to say, because it's just kind of where I am now, back when it was happening to me, I'd go and look at these people and, why are you attacking me, and leave me alone, and I don't know you, and why are you sharing personal pics of me online and all that kind of stuff? And this was coming from my own industry, mind you. Like, this was not necessarily outside people. This was people in real estate in Australia. Whereas now, when I cop it, I'm just like, you know what? You tried that 2 years ago. I've taken that now, and I use that as a driving force. And that was kind of when I started coming out of it. It's like, you want to have a crack at me? I'm going to get so big that you can't hold a candle to me at all, and people are just not going to listen to you. And when I look at some of the people that, it's like Gary Vee. I don't know if you guys follow Gary Vee at all, but he's like, what's going on in someone's head to have a crack at someone that they don't even know? So I see it, I block it, delete it. But I've gotten to that point. And I suppose, to answer your question, why are we seeing it? There's just not enough awareness about it. There's not enough people talking about it. It's one thing to have Are You Okay Day, which, I see everybody posts on LinkedIn, the Are You Okay badge, but no one has got time no one, from what I see, it's everyone says, like, please reach out, please call. But, not everyone's comfortable having those conversations with someone. Not everyone knows how to have a conversation with someone who's struggling as well. And that was the one thing that I did learn from an 𝗚𝗚𝗡𝗏 ambassador was if someone's reaching out and they do ask for help, you just need to zip it. You don't need to solve their problem. Sometimes they just want to talk. They just need a shoulder to cry on. They don't need you necessarily to fix your problems. And I find that that's even on the flip side to people who do try to help, they care too much or they want to fix the problem, that they can often do more damage by trying to go down that path. And it was, I had a phone call tonight actually from a friend of mine who lost a close family member at the start of the year. And she rang up to apologize that she's been quiet because we talk all the time. The way that she deals with stuff is she goes into her own little world and doesn't want to be doesn't want to be contacted. And I'm kind of the same. If I'm having a bad day or a bad week or something like that, I just want to sit on the lounge and watch Netflix and just debrief or do whatever and just sort of get through it. The last thing I want when I'm kind of in a mood like that, I do not want people harassing me. Are you okay? Do you want me to come over? Messaging me 10 times a day because that's not how I heal. And I think knowing and understanding how people heal it is a big thing. And asking what people need. And if people say they need time, obviously gauge the situation, but sometimes people just need time or just, need to know that you are there and you're not alone. So.
Yeah, beautiful words. And yeah, wise words as well in the way that, people react in a different way. We don't know their emotions and the way that, their history. Was it something that has built up over time and this is kind of the last straw? Or is it something that is new and it's hit them all at once and they can't deal with it? So it's very difficult so you have to allow them time to also to talk, to share, to get it off their chest and get it out there. But I think, what you're saying, we don't pay enough attention to that. The ministers don't seem to care. We talk about health ministers. This is health, this is well-being and quality of life. And they don't care. And there's, as soon as someone puts something like this on a social media, particularly LinkedIn, then you'll get the people saying, oh, it's not the platform for that. Well, it is the platform for that because to me, sorry to interrupt. To me, it is because we are all human beings and we're all going about our life and business and personal life are interconnected. And if this is affecting, and maybe it's been brought on by toxic colleagues or a bad boss in the workplace. So it is apparent here and relevant here.
And I think the interesting thing with that post was that's had about 1 million hits over the last 2.5 weeks or so. But the one thing too that needs to it's not just politicians or governments, but we need to look at big tech as well. Over COVID, over lockdown, the way that these, and for anyone that's watching this, if there's one piece of advice I could give when it comes to the social media side of things, it's the algorithms determine what you see. And if you it doesn't know whether you are that content is positive or negative for you. It just knows that you're consuming it. So if there is and I'll go to US politics for example, if you've got someone like Donald Trump, if you're a pro-Trump or against Trump, regardless, if you're watching his videos, it will continue. The algorithms will continue to throw to show his videos. Now, if you're against him, you're going to continue to see him. And that's going to do things to your mental health. And that's where it's kind of trying to get out of that algorithm. And I think social media, I'm actually, even though I own a social media marketing agency, I don't use it personally. I very rarely use it personally. I've got a private account that's locked. I very rarely post on it. I've got my personal Facebook, which is really just for family, because social media can be a very dangerous place. It's people don't post their They post the highlight reel, I call it. They post the highlight reel of their life. They don't post the movie. And for someone that's sitting there watching stuff on social, and social has a very massive impact, because if someone's in a bad headspace and they just keep seeing everybody else having a wonderful life and they're sitting, in bed feeling like shit, they're going to look at that and think, okay, well, what's wrong with me? And like, there's nothing wrong with you. The algorithms are showing you stuff that you're engaging with, and that's breaking that trend. For anyone who is struggling, the first thing I would say is get off social media for a while.
No, absolutely. Because you're right. Social media can be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy in the way that, I mean, you look at something and then it's going to propagate that all the time, and you're going to get bombarded with the things that you didn't necessarily want.
Yeah.
And it's the same like when you're looking for something for shopping, then you're bombarded with that. You think, well, I've already bought it now. I don't want any more information on that. And for the next week or so, you get all the rubbish. I would rather, you could control that in a better way, but it seems that's the way that they want to play the game. So, which it is a game. So, I mean, I love what you say, and I know this is a massive problem, because a lot of our guests have actually talked about, we've had also mental health coaches and people on the show that deal with this and say it's a huge problem. But personally speaking, I think it all goes back, there's kind of a fundamental layer. If you go back to the education and back to school, then you said you were lost and disillusioned. You didn't really know which way to go. You didn't have a focus, and you're kind of trying to find your own way. Now, a lot of people don't find their own way, and that's where it kind of all starts. They get into a rut that they think, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm worthless. I'm useless. I can't do anything. I've got all this peer pressure. I can't do these subjects because they're not mine and I'm not gifted at them. And I'm feeling like a fool. But if the education helped you bring out the gifts that you have, they'll say, right, okay, you're not so good at maths, no problem. Maybe we could do maths in a different way. But what you are good at, we're going to bring out and we're going to show. It just seems that if you're not academically gifted at school, then you're the fool. But I always look at like a sports star. A sports star could be kind of the fastest runner in the world, or the best footballer in the world, or the best at this, best at athletics, but terrible in academia. Yeah. At school, they're probably bullied because of that. Now, school should think, right, okay, this was never you. You were never here to do that. And let's emphasize and bring forward the things that you are good at. But if people never know what they are, because they've never had a lesson or a way to extract that, then they're always going to go through their life feeling the fool.
Yeah, and I think, sadly, unfortunately, at the age range here in Australia, it's between 25 to 40 years old. So I get what you're saying as far as school and the education and things like that. But I mean, these are men with families and stuff like that who, don't know how. There's a lot of things like financial pressure is like one of the biggest killers. It's the biggest suicide reasons. It's the number one for marriage breakdowns and all that kind of thing. And I think and I was talking to someone, I think it was towards the end of last year, and he was so embarrassed that, so it wasn't last year, it was when COVID first hit. He was so embarrassed that he had to go on government benefits because he'd lost his job and he had a young family because lockdown and all that kind of thing. And this was a guy who I had a lot of time for, a lot of respect for, was one of the hardest, strongest guys I've ever met. And he was on the phone crying to me because he was so embarrassed and he didn't want to do it. And it's like, mate, your first goal is to look after your family. And if you've got to go on government benefits for a couple of months to do that, there is absolutely no shame in that. Like the strongest thing, you've got to look after your family and put your pride aside, because you're no good to them if you're not here. And it's that thing, and I suppose it comes a lot with men too, that pride, as far as I don't want to be seen to be weak. I don't want to be seen to, not be a provider and all that kind of stuff. And I even had that when I was like 18 or 19, I fell down the stairs at the club. I broke my wrist, and I was a real estate agent. I couldn't drive. So my boss put me on medical leave or whatever it was. I went to our Centrelink, so that's our government benefits, welfare, whatever you want to call it, for 6 weeks to get a payment. It was like a not a disability, but like a medical kind of payment for 6 weeks. And I had to show them that I had a letter signed from my boss that says, look, he can return on this date, which is when the cast came off and all that. And I was embarrassed to do that. And I remember, mind you, I'd been working for about 3 years at this point. And then I turned around and said, well, hang on, no, I've paid taxes for years. This is what I'm paying for. So when I need help, these resources are there. So, I mean, even from that financial point of view, there are services out there, and anyone that's watching it, this is what we pay for. This is what our taxes pay for. So I think the hardest thing is just getting that conversation to happen. Yeah. And it's got to be normalized. And we've got to start the conversation as far as, and I see it a lot, and I really don't want to get into this one. No, you've got to be very careful. But I think we need to, when conversations start about suicides or mental health or domestic violence or family courts and this, that, and the other, gender needs to be taken out of the conversation, because men struggle just as much as women. Women struggle just as much as men, but men are not as represented in mainstream media for help. Every time I turn on the TV here, there are ads for females who are escaping domestic violence. And it's like, guys get abused too. Guys have got their kids taken away from them in family law courts. And I see that so often. And we've got to change that conversation as far as, men just aren't supported publicly.
I completely agree. And living in Switzerland now, originally from the UK, but now living in Switzerland, I thought Switzerland's all about mountains, lakes, cuckoo clocks, and chocolate. And and I never thought in my wildest dreams that there'd be a huge suicidal problem, particularly with men over a certain age, between a certain age. And a lot of them, the highest group, believe it or not, are C-level executives. Yeah, you hear it all the time. The CEO of this big company, the CEO of that company, the CEO of this one. And I mean, over the years, there's been a massive amount. Yeah, nobody addresses it. Nobody talks about it. It's kind of brushed under the carpet. Yeah, it's happening on a daily basis. And more so over the last 2 or 3 years, because of all the pressure and the propaganda and everything that's been pushed out, all the negativity. Sorry.
Well, we've just had a case here in Australia where, and I'll be very careful how I word this, because I don't know where this is going, and allegedly, we had 2 politicians or 2 people that worked in our Parliament House, male and a female colleague, were at a pub. They went back to Parliament House, which was a stupid idea. There's an alleged incident that apparently has occurred at Parliament House. The man was charged for a year or 18 months. His name has been dragged through the mud. We've had our mainstream media here, one female presenter in particular, who has gone on and basically found him guilty, hasn't even had a court date yet, has found him guilty. She won a Logie, which is our equivalent to the American Emmys, for that journalism. Because she mentioned that court case in her acceptance speech, the court case was moved back. Now, the lady in that situation has dropped the charges. Now, the thing is, that guy has had his whole life turned upside down. The media has turned against him. It hasn't been to court. And this is where, as the media is just getting it wrong, it's just like, this guy has had his life ruined. And what does that say to any guy out there? It basically says, keep quiet. Mainstream media doesn't care. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And that's another reason why guys are afraid to come forward. They're scared because there's no support. Like there's you just got to look at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. Same kind of thing. It's like, it's when that first hit the airwaves, he lost his career. And there was a lot of stuff going on between. I'm not condoning either side of the coin on that one, because that was just, a relationship that just should never have happened. But the problem is, he was, and you heard it in that video, tell the world that I'm a man, I'm, getting a victim of domestic violence. And it's like, guys are not believed. And it's just, why would a guy come forward at the moment? The support that it's just not there.
Yeah. Completely agree. I mean, mainstream media and social media could be your best friend, but also your worst enemy. I mean, they can help make you, but they can break you at the same time. And it's kind of trial and jury by mainstream. Yeah. And before anyone's actually heard both sides, I mean, there's always two sides to a coin. Yeah. And hear both sides of the story. And I mean, just from what you said, I mean, they both go down the pub, they both have a drink, and they both go back to the office. I mean, to me, that's 50-50, right? Right? Yeah. Unless I'm a fool and I'm thinking something different. Yeah. Right?
Well, look, but that's the thing. It's whether something sinister happened or not, whether consensual or not. The fact is, the guy was condemned. And, hadn't gone before a court. It hit the news. The mainstream media picked it up, won an award for journalism simply for taking the side of one particular party. And then that person pulled out. So, and now the guy is trying to sue for defamation because he can't get a job now. Like he can't get work.
You're wrong. The thing is that what you call mainstream media, it's not a media. So it's backed by politicians, by economic influence. This is the problem. I have a small media, and it's small because if you want to be media, to give like the freedom of speech, so everybody to share, you get pressed because you're not with the mainstream. And the mainstream is that some kind so-called elite that is trying to manipulate to manipulate the masses. This is the problem, in fact. And what James says about the suicides, etc., to be a CEO of hyper big company, etc., it's a lot of burden you carry with yourself. And there are changes that are happening also here in Bulgaria. We're small, but many companies, they try to implement such programs to assist employees on different level, to give like psychological help, to give a hand when you have deeply personal problems. So there is a way to, in the proper moment, to touch this and to help these guys. And it has a tremendous effect personally, but also loyalty of the employees. So a lot of benefits. World is changing for good, so it needs to go out of the shelters.
And boy, we've got programs like that here, wellness programs and things like that. And I think the thing though too is it's to get the guys to it. Huh?
It's kind of camouflage, maybe, or not.
Yeah, it's look, I think it hasn't become normalized yet or appropriate. And I don't interact with a lot of people on social these days for the simple fact that I've got to that point where I'll see something I don't agree with, and it's like, is this worth my time? Is this worth a fight? Because you can't comment these days on anything. And it's like, just because I have a different opinion to you on something doesn't mean I'm offended by your point of view or your belief. It's just, I don't agree with it. We can still live harmoniously with each other and not agree. But, and that's the thing. I see so many people that actually do almost put out like a cry for help on social. I think some people do overshare on social media as well. But I do see some people that put stuff out and it's like some of the comments and that are, grow up or get over it or move on or this, that, and the other. It's not healthy. And that's where it's kind of, it's
But in particular, it's when the people comment and say, this is not the place for these sorts of posts. And I think, well, this person's a cry out for help, right? And maybe this is the only platform that they use. And they're asking for help, and you're telling them this is not the place for that, then that's probably kind of the nail in the coffin.
Well, and James, I had someone 2 or 3 days ago that I put something on Instagram stories. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people here in Australia who real estate coaches have propped up to be gurus and that in this space. I put something out there just to remind people that, I was the first to do it and all that kind of thing. And he said, you're coming across very sarcastic and arrogant and things like that. And it's like, mate, that's your opinion. You may not think what I'm doing is right or appropriate. That's fine. Don't you do it then. Yeah. If you don't think that's appropriate, don't you do it.
Yeah. It is ironic in the way that when you post something, sometimes you're not allowed that freedom of expression and say, you have to then caveat it, in my opinion, right? This is my personal opinion, right? I mean, you have to kind of caveat everything that you say, or people will pick holes in it. You'll get someone go off on a tangent because maybe it wasn't grammatically correct. Oh yeah. You call yourself an English speaking person, you can't even write something. I think, hang on a minute, I'm not talking about my English grammar. I'm talking about the essence of what the post is supposed to be about, and someone has misread it or misunderstood it.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I want to, we could talk about this all day. So just the last thing on this before we kind of come back to your business again and where you are. When you said that, you do podcasts as well and shows, right? So Simon Dunn was going to be a guest on your show kind of a week earlier. So was there any kind of indication or any telltale signs that he was feeling depressed?
I think with Simon, nobody knows actually what's happened with Simon at the moment. There's a lot of stories and a lot of rumors going around, but I never saw anything with him that would indicate depression.
And he was going to come on your show talking about mental health problems.
Correct, because he's a big advocate for it. He's involved in a lot of charities and a lot of work with people in that space. And given his stature as an Olympian and as a footy player, and he was really loved by the community in Sydney as a whole. He was one of those ones that if people looked at and he's had struggles in the past and all that kind of thing. So to hear something from someone very high profile like that, and that's where I think that, that there are a lot of men out there that struggle. And I think we are starting to see some of these higher profile people come through and say it and let people know, because I think that is, that's something that a lot more people need to see is their idols and the people that they highly respect and all that kind of thing. And, again, it comes back to a couple of people that I've lost over the years. And it's like, you never would have known because they're posting all their shiny photos. Like every photo they're posting is I'm at a party or I'm at a bar or, I'm laying on the beach. And it's like, that's just what they want you to see. And that's kind of where it's like, we need more of these people to come out and say, yeah, look, you know what? Even with me, I've got a great business. I'm living a lifestyle now that, I never dreamed of. But 2 years ago, it was a very different story. And I dug myself out that hole. And it's okay to feel like that. But it's how you respond to those feelings that make all the difference.
Exactly. So when you felt at this low point, did you have any outside help or anyone helping you? Or did you kind of reach deeper inside yourself to find the answers?
I turned to drugs and alcohol initially because I wanted that quick fix. I wanted to just put it aside, and then a few things had started to compound, and I realized that this is not helping. I started pushing people away, turning people away. I had a very small group of people that I could talk to about this. And I'm kind of just one of those people where it's like, tell me I can't do it and watch me do it. And it really was, I started having, like, it's hard to explain. I had all these people trying to destroy my company and trying to destroy my baby. And this is something I built from scratch. And I almost became like a parent. It's like, if you come after my baby, I'm going to, like I said to you earlier, I'm going to make this so big and just wipe the floor with you. That was all the ammunition I needed. And even to this day, there was one incident, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, but there was one incident where one member of the industry contacted one of my clients with absolute rubbish, and it got back to me, and that was it. That was it. And this person is highly respected and visual and of influence in our Australian real estate industry. And I was like, watch me. I'm going to make this so big and so bad. I'm going to, like, literally blow you out of the water. And that's what drove me. So every time I received a negative comment, it's like, you know what? I'm going to go and get another member. And I really sort of turned it into my driving force. It's like, the more you attack me, the stronger I was getting. Whereas now it's just stopped. And I think it was, I clapped back a little, like I clapped back in the beginning. And I had a lot of people tell me it wasn't professional and you're going to lose business and this, that, and the other. No one actually reached out to see if I was okay. Yeah. All I had was, I was having people share stuff, and, you know, on my personal Facebook page, I was putting, you know, personal stuff up. And that was being shared in closed Facebook groups that I had friends in that were screenshotting it and sending it to me. And people in the industry were laughing and sharing it and all that kind of stuff. And that was tough to have coming from your peers. And then it just kind of got to the point where it's like, look, you know what? You know, I had people saying that your business is not going anywhere. They're sharing all this stuff. I was getting bad Google reviews. You know, he was this, that, and the other. Some of the filth that was getting written on my Facebook page as far as reviews and stuff like that. I think I responded in a way that if you're going to write something, I'd screenshot it, put it out of my socials, because I got a big following, and almost shame that person into it. And then I kind of just turned around and thought, well, the thing that's really going to piss them off is if I become more successful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. But I think you've done the right thing. I mean, for you, probably for what you've gone through, I mean, as a child and the different jobs and building up that self-confidence, that there's only kind of so much shit you can throw at me before I decide that, well, I can either not take it and then do something silly, or I am going to use that as ammunition to fight back. And I mean, not fight in a verbal war or anything, but to go out and be more successful and to really be determined on your path and where you're going. Yeah. And I think this is kind of maybe a sensitive area when you get to that pivot point, right? Do you actually pivot and do something, or do you pivot and do, I mean, something positive, or pivot and do something negative and harm yourself when it's the others? I believe in kind of karma. What goes around will come around. Maybe not in this lifetime, but it will catch up with them. So whatever they put out there and it's negative and it's bringing people down, it's going to catch up with them. It'll come back and get them. There's no escaping.
There's not, but when you're in that mindset and that frame, you want that karma straight away.
Exactly.
That's just the mindset. It's like, you're hurting me, I want you to hurt. And that was kind of, for me, and it wasn't just I flicked a switch one night and, you know, it was boom, all guns blaring. I mean, I was in bed all day, and or I'd get out of bed, I'd come lay on the lounge or this, that, and the other. So for me to get out of that, because it's one thing to say snap out of it or a pivot point or all that kind of stuff, but I just wasn't happy with myself. I'd built something that at that point it was going well. I loved it. I was proud of it, but it was just, you know, here, there, or everywhere. But I just started thinking, you know what, take that pressure off myself, small goals. And it's literally like how I got myself back on the road was get up, make the bed and have breakfast. That was it. That was, if I could achieve that from the day, that was a goal. That was, and then I could strike that up as a tick. And that could be the goal for the whole week. And then it was just little things like, eat better or go for a walk. And it's just, I didn't set when you're in that. And that's the thing, when you are in that mindset and you're in such a down space, everything feels like it's on top of you and it's hard to breathe. And I've been there, and that's where people say, go and speak to a counselor, but you've got to find that within you to pick up the phone and make that phone call. That's a very bloody hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think that's the biggest problem. Going back to what you said about pride. Maybe you've been a successful business person, you've been successful in a job, you've had the money, and now you've kind of lost it all and kind of lost that direction, lost the focus, and you can't swallow the pride and pick up the phone. It's just not your nature to do it. You just feel that is going to be the biggest battle. I'm going to find a way through it, but you don't know the answers and you don't know which way to turn, but you don't want to turn to someone because you want to put on that brave face every day. So you're out in the street with a brave face, the happy-go-lucky guy, and then you come back and you're burning up. You're that depressive person that you think, how am I going to get out of this? And it makes it a challenge. But anyway, I don't want to kind of end on this. I want to end on kind of understanding, where are you now in your business and how is it going? And can you share a bit more about what you're actually doing now? And then we'll wrap this up.
Yep, no worries. Okay, so like I said, we're in 6 countries. I've got 850 members, trying to get that up to 1,500. A few more countries would be great. But we've got this amazing agent portal, which I've built, that hosts all this digital content and training and all that kind of stuff. Spent a lot of money on it towards the end of last year. I finally got the portal that I love. And basically it's just where we're at is we've got a product where we can help other businesses grow, brand, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, for me personally, it's, I suppose, we'd love to have more members, but it's making sure that what goes into our system and our portal and all the software, all that kind of stuff is of benefit and value to my members. So as long as my members are happy, I'm a happy boy.
Excellent. So when you say we, I mean, is it you and a team of people?
Yeah, I've got a team. We've got offshore team members. We've got a couple here in Australia as well. So we've probably got about 11 that works. Everyone's got their own little thing, whether they're, digital marketing or PR or the social or the IT data guys. Yeah.
And the regions, you mentioned initially because of your expertise is in real estate, but it's not just for real estate. I mean, it's for other business. So what types of businesses or business people is this for?
It's for the stuff that we offer in the portal, for everyone, really. I mean, look, we do specialize in real estate, but I think marketing is marketing, and marketing is not a rocket science. It's all you've got to do in marketing. You've got to know who your client is, and you've got to know what they want to see to engage with you. So I don't care if you're selling a house or if you're selling shoes or if you're selling, a hamburger. If you know what your client wants or you know what your audience wants, and you put good quality content in front of them and engage them, they will come to you. So we've worked with real estate, finance, automobile, entertainment, hospitality. And
you mentioned podcasts. What type of podcasts do you do and how do you do them? I mean, is it like this, a video kind of podcast, or is it something different?
Depends who the person is. So obviously for something like this, we're in 2 different countries, 2 different time zones. A Zoom is fine. And I don't think you need the big production style videos anymore. Then there are other companies that I work with. So we've got a big real estate company here in Australia, one agency. They've got 600 agents. We do a full production style video for those kind of things. And it's basically just the kind of content is whatever's relevant at the moment. Here in Australia, financially, a lot of people are hurting. We've got interest rates going up. We've got inflation. A lot of people are worried. So we're doing a lot about mental health and mindset, and for business owners, planning and starting to, reduce your costs and how you can still run a successful business economically and things like that. But that's not just to real estate. I think for every business owner at the moment in the world, with everything that's going on, is you want to run a profitable business. So just kind of thing.
So you can share links as well about kind of the podcast, about the business, and about everything else that you're doing, so people can connect. And just also on the regions that you do, you support Australia, New Zealand, or is it global or regionalized or what?
Yeah, so we're in New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, Canada, UK, US. 6 countries.
Wow. Yeah. So it's very global.
Very global. Yeah.
So the guy that started off at school kind of being the misfit and with no hope has now gone on to an international global business and actually helping others that are struggling on their business. So, I mean, hats off to you. I mean, you've done a remarkable job. Also being an inspirer, but also using kind of your initiative, looking at kind of social media in the early days about Facebook and how to do real estate on Facebook, kind of leading the way. And I mean, you are definitely an inspiration to others. And yeah, if anything, people should be reaching out and wanting to know your story and how you can help them, because you're not one of these guys that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and kind of had it easy. You've learned the hard way. You've gone through kind of the mental stress. You've had the online bullying, which, I mean, I hope I never have that, but I mean, I wouldn't want to experience that.
It's not fun.
And you kind of come through the other side. And this is just part of your journey. I mean, I always say that the journey never ends, because as soon as you get to kind of the destination that you set out to do, then what's next? And you're doing something. And then the fact that you've kind of also brought in the podcasting, you talk about mental health, you talk about businesses. I love it. I love what you do. So congratulations. So Nic, as we're wrapping up now, have you got anything that kind of you want to leave us with? Anything that kind of can point us in the right direction, or any last message?
Just wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever your business is, whatever your goals, hobbies, whatever it is, just follow your heart. The only person you've got to please in this world is yourself. Like, live life for you. And I know that sounds corny, but at the end of the day, if you're happy, that's all that matters. No,
excellent.
Follow your gut.
Nic, from not knowing you a week ago to knowing a lot more about you, and if I ever go to Sydney, I'll definitely want to look you up. And come and see you. Nic, you've been a fantastic guest, our 114th guest, and another guest from Australia. I mean, we seem to have quite a few, but I should also connect you with some of the previous guests that have been in Australia as well, because I think you'll resonate a lot with them as well. So this is all about networking, connecting like-minded people together, and how we can share our journeys and help one another. So Nic, thank you once again for being a fantastic guest.
Thank you.
Wow, that was another featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact. If you'd like to be our next featured guest, or learn how James Moffat can help you leverage on the art and power of interactive storytelling for your business, reach out and schedule a call now.